Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am so excited, and I am so lucky to be joined by some of the most beautiful women and girls in the whole world. We are here with the cast and crew of the film Transference. I have Nicole and I have Remi Cannon. How are you guys doing today?
Good, thank you.
Really good, thank you.
So Nicole is the writer, and then Remi is Piper and young Camille. So you guys can't see it, but they're down in the corner for me, but they'll keep flashing up for you. And then I have, here we go. I'm going to try to do this and not insult you. We got Lauren Buglioli. Lauren, she was Camille in the movie. Lauren, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, no problem. This is so awesome for me as well. And then I have the awesome and amazing Amelie McLain. Did I get that right?
Amelie, you were close.
Amelie. Oh, I knew I was going to mess it up. Amelie McLain. Amelie, how are you?
Great, thank you.
You'll recognize Amelie. She was Sadie in the film. So I'm going to ask some questions real quick before we get into your guys' first horror movie. I'm going to bounce around. Amelie, was this your first film that you've been in?
Yes, this was my first movie. I had done some commercials, but this was my first movie, and I really loved it because I really got to connect with everyone, all of the actors, and it was way different than commercials, and I loved it so much.
That's awesome. And this was the first of very, very many for you.
Thank you, yeah.
Now let's go, Nicole. You were the writer here. So how much did you have to do with the direction and production of the film?
Well, I was also executive producer, so I was very hands-on, which was really great. I found the director who was really great at helping us stick to the script and make sure that the vision of the film was, what was on the page actually made it to the screen. So I didn't actually direct any of it, but I was definitely there, very hands-on on the day, every day, making sure that we got what we needed to make the movie. So yeah.
That's awesome. And Remi, while we're talking, how was it working for you? Was this your first film?
This was my first film. I had done plenty of short films just for family friends, and I actually started with school theater and musicals, but this was my first film, yeah.
Now, please forgive me. I know I just don't want to assume anything. I'm assuming this is Nicole and Remi, mother-daughter, correct?
Yes.
I didn't know if it was mother-daughter or if it was sisters, and I was going to get, a DDT or something. So how was it being able to work as a mother-daughter combo? Was that, I'm sure I have 2 daughters and a son myself, and I'm a baseball coach, and, that's not as big as what you guys are doing, but I still get the opportunity to be there with my kids while they're doing their thing. So from a parent's perspective, Nicole, how was that being able to work with your daughter on something that you had written?
It was amazing. I loved watching Remi on stage in all of her plays, and I knew that she had the chops to pull off the role. And thank God she was there for us, because we couldn't find the Piper character when we were casting, and she just knocked it out of the park. She was such a pro. She had to sit through an hour of makeup every day, and there was a couple of days that she had those contacts in as well, so she couldn't see anything. So she would need people to carry her around and guide her places. And there's a couple of days that she got in full makeup with the contacts and everything, and then we didn't use her. And so she kind of sat behind the whole day. And she was such a pro, and it was really, really fun to share this with her. So
I'm sure that was a fun ride too, a fun ride home with her just staring at you like, that was fun in makeup, Mom. I'm really glad we got to do that, Mom.
No, not at all. It was always just I loved being in that environment in general, and thank God I had my mom to be the person to kind of guide me around, because I feel like that'd be a little bit awkward just having random crew members just kind of guide you around. But there was so much support having her there, and also having my sister there, who was a photographer on set. And it really boosted me up in those days where I got really tired in all that makeup. I just had that extra boost from them.
Sure. So that's cool though too. I'm a big family guy. I actually have my mother around my neck at all times. So she's here all the time. My kids, my wife, they're all very important to me. So it means a lot to me to hear that you guys are out there working together as a family. And I know, Remi, you might be a little too young to understand right now, but the connection of being with your family and how, we don't have very much time here on this earth. So as your mom, I'm sure she appreciates it more. I'm not saying you don't appreciate it because you look like a very bright young lady, but the older you get, the more you'll look back on this time and really appreciate the time you got to spend with your mom. And it'll mean a lot to you the older you get, I promise. So don't take this time for granted because you never know when it goes away. So please continue to work with your mom as much as you can. Let her know you love her and appreciate her.
I'd love to do more films with her.
That's awesome.
We just shot my other daughter's student film this afternoon before we came on. So we're definitely one of those families that like to create together.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Lauren, how did you become a part of this film?
So I actually saw the breakdown on a site called Actors Access, and I saw the description of Camille and read the sides, and it was this moment of, I have to play this character. And I heard one point I heard Jennifer Lawrence talking about her role in Hunger Games. And she said, I felt like I had to play this character. I knew I needed to take care of her. And this role was just a dream for any actor. I mean, what Nicole allowed me to explore as an artist was just, I don't think I'll ever have another experience that was so fulfilling and beautiful. Getting to work with Nicole, Remi, and you talk about the importance of family. Amelie's mom, who's incredible, was on set with her and encouraging her. And you would never in a million years think this was either one of these girls' first films. Like, it was an honor to work with them. It was just dreamy across the board. So I auditioned, and it was one of those, gosh, I hope I book this. And there were all these serendipitous moments, like Nicole actually knows one of my family members, and all these pieces came together that you never could dream that you'd have such an incredible experience on set. So I was constantly pinching myself. And I keep saying to myself, you know what, if nothing else ever happens in my career, to have had an experience like that, most actors never get, to see actresses like Amelie and Remi step into their careers and just blow you away, and to the whole crew coming together. It was an amazing experience, and I was just honored to play Camille.
Oh my God.
This is a great film. For those of you that haven't seen it, this is available on Amazon Prime. And if I'm not mistaken, is this on Tubi right now?
Oh, I don't know. Is it? I'm not quite sure. What's that?
I think it may be streaming free on Tubi right now as well, but it is on Amazon Prime. And like I said, I want to go back to something you just said, Lauren. Watching this film, this is why I asked you young ladies if this was your first time, because you would never guess watching this film that this was the first time that you young ladies had been on the screen. So you guys are naturals. It was so fun. It's fun for me as an experience to watch this. And when I got the email that you guys were interested in coming on, it really meant a lot to me, because not only do I get to talk with you guys and hang out with you and feel important for a half hour to an hour, but I'm a fan too. So this is me being able to talk to people that I'm a fan of and get to learn kind of where this started for you guys. So I asked Lauren a little bit, but Amelie, what was your favorite part about filming this film? Well, if you had to pick one thing that you would say, that was my favorite thing, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, well, this whole film was amazing. But one of my favorite moments was when I got to do prosthetic makeup on my face, when the scene where I was under the bed with all my face decaying. That was so crazy, and it was my first time getting prosthetics on, and I just looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, wow, that's a whole different person.
That's awesome. And the fact that you can appreciate it, because there's a lot of, we use a lot of CGI and stuff of that nature in film now. So for you to be able to sit there in the chair and go through with the natural effects and be able to experience that and appreciate that at a young age is really cool. Because a lot of people look at the CGI and are like, wow, that's awesome. But for you to sit there and go through the practical effects and really enjoy that, that's such a cool story for me to hear. Because I hear a lot of people that complain about sitting in the makeup chair. So to hear you young ladies are all about it, even on days where you're not filming. I can see Remi's down there stomping on Nicole's foot. Yeah, even on days we're not filming, Mom. But, that's really cool, Amelie. Thank you for sharing that. What about you, Remi? What was your favorite part of filming?
Wow. I'd just say, like, the community. Honestly, we just had a great time every single day. And that's another thing, like, all the crew members and the cast members, like, when they weren't being, like, used, we had, like, time to just connect and, like, mess around. And it was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot of things about, what the crew members do, So I got to recognize all the work that goes behind productions. And so after I came home from shooting in Atlanta, I could never look at a movie the same way, you know? Because I had this whole new respect for everybody. And I think because it was such a learning experience, that just, you know, changed everything.
See, man, I can't say this enough. Amelie and Remi, you guys are years above where you should be when it comes to talking about film and appreciating film. Like, you guys are where I was like 3 days ago. So you guys are definitely on the right track on your appreciations. And one thing I do want to say, and this is just from an outsider, honestly, this is the first time I've had full-on conversations with these women, which I'm very appreciative of. But watching the film, there are films that you can really tell there was friction involved, but there are also films where you could tell that everything was smooth and everybody was having a great time. And even in a thriller, you can see that you guys there was that connection there and you can feel it. So I'm glad that you brought that up. That's something that really is cool for me to hear, to know that you guys had that great connection while you were on film. So Nicole, I know you weren't really up on the screen, but about filming, what was one of your favorite parts of filming?
I liked those days where things were going wrong, so we needed a puppy and we hired a puppy, but it was the 4th of July the night before and the puppy got sick and the puppy didn't show up and we're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And then we were scrambling around the town, which we were not from, looking for a dog, and a couple showed up and they were aggressive and it wasn't gonna work. And this guy randomly said, I got a baby goat. I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect. And we had several things like that where we're just like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And the way that we adjusted ended up being better for the story. So those magic moments, I just really felt like, oh yeah, it was pretty amazing. That was a lot of fun on set.
Well, one thing that really stinks, and you guys aren't going to get to experience what I just experienced, because the way that Zoom works, obviously it bounces back and forth as we talk, but as I'm speaking, I get to see everybody right now. And the reaction from Lauren and Amelie, when you just brought up that puppy, their eyes lit up the minute you started telling this story. And that is so awesome for me to be able to watch this, and just the smiles that came on their faces. That was so cool. Again, the connection there, that's super intense and super awesome. Lauren, let's go back. Your favorite part of filming this. I know that this was the role. It seems like it was written for you. It seems like you were destined for this role. You needed this role just as much as the role needed you. So what was your favorite part of it?
That's a cruel question. Because, I mean, just the entire experience, it's something that I will never take for granted. But there was one day, and I will say overall, watching Amelie and Remi, like that, I'll never forget watching Amelie cry the night that she wrapped and seeing that pure love for what she does. And Remi's professionalism and Amelie's professionalism and Nicole's dedication, everyone who is a part of this, see, it's a cruel question because I have too many answers. But there was this magical day where Remi and I got to work together, and literally it was the scene in my office towards the end. And Remi, the second I was working opposite her, I could not stop crying. Like, just, it was so beautifully written that the words did the work for me. And then it was incredible working with Remi, but then she pumpkined, which means like her day was finished. So I had this incredible experience working with her. And then a little known fact, Nicole got to step in as her stand-in. And something about saying these words to this incredible force of nature who wrote them, it just, I mean, I'll never forget that moment, because the connection I have with Nicole, with everyone on set, but the connection I have with Nicole is just, I don't know that I'll ever be able to find that with another collaborator, because this story just like ripped out my heart. And to be able to say her words to her, it's just something I'll never forget. And she was so giving and present and supportive every step of the way. We just couldn't have done it without her. So obviously.
I was about to go into your guys' first horror movie, but before I do, Nicole, I got to know, how was that standing opposite of her and listening to her with the emotion she had, reading these words that went from your heart to your fingers to the paper and are now coming out of her mouth at you? How was that?
First of all, the fact that she found our film is near a miracle. I mean, she was the only one that even came close to understanding the heart of Camille, and she knocked it out of the park. And it was such a blessing that she found us. So I'm so grateful. And the fact that I actually got to like work opposite her with that, it's like the minute I sat down in that chair, we both were just like, It was just because she really understood. I'm gonna cry. I'm like such a big baby, but just because she understood Camille's heart, you know, and just being able to like be with her to say those words just was such a wonderful moment. Like seeing that character come to life and just be right there in front of me. It's amazing. As a writer, it can be very isolating and very lonely. You're like writing these characters, you might not ever hear them speak or come to life. And then Lauren just did such justice to the humanity of that character that like being opposite of her when that happened, I was like mind blown. It was amazing.
I mean, and essentially, like I said, Lauren, you made this your own, but essentially this is an extension of you, Nicole. So you have this extension of you that's speaking back to you through Lauren, through her wonderful acting. I'm not trying to downplay you at all, Lauren. Please don't think that.
It's
but
the
you
writing.
have this, you have this extension of you that's really sitting there talking back to you. That's a beautiful thought and a beautiful feeling. So thank you guys so much for sharing these stories. Before we get into your first horror movie, I want to remind everybody out there watching, Transference is available on Amazon Prime. If it is available on Tubi, there was one time in the 90s I was wrong, so it could happen again. But if it is on Tubi, I'll have it down here in the description as well. I have all the links to their social media and everything down here in the description. So make sure you're shouting them out, showing them that you appreciate them. They've put a lot of hard work into this film, and when you watch it, you're going to totally understand what I mean. So we are here today, ladies, though, to talk about the first horror movies that you ever seen. I'm going to go right in order. So Amelie, let's start with you. What was the first horror movie that you ever seen?
Okay, so I was lucky enough to shoot Terrifier 2, the sequel to Terrifier 1. It's a creepy clown slasher movie. So I love my role, and my parents have seen Terrifier 1, and I've seen parts of Terrifier 1. And from what I've seen, it's super creepy, and it's an awesome horror movie. And
you want to know something really cool, Amelie?
Yeah.
I had David Howard Thornton on the show. I had an interview with him on here about his first horror movie. So that's really cool to be able to talk to you about Terrifier a little bit. And congratulations on being a part of Terrifier 2. We're all so excited about that. So congratulations on that. I'm so happy for you. Real quick, how was it work? Did you get to work with David at all?
Yes, I did. He is so awesome. And when I first learned that I was able to be in Terrifier 2, honestly, I was a little scared to meet Art the clown because I've never seen like clowns. But once I really got to meet David, he was so sweet, and it was way better than what I was thinking. He's just so awesome.
He is. David is one of the most genuine, kind, down-to-earth guys. He told me a really funny story. I'll send you the link to the video. He told me a really funny story about him and his grandma with him getting punished one time. I think you'll enjoy that one, Amelie. So let's go to Nicole and Remi real quick. Remi, what was your first horror movie?
Poltergeist. I can see it in the background. You have Poltergeist 3. But yeah, the classic Poltergeist, I was probably around 9 years old, maybe 8 years old. It's okay. But don't worry, because I totally pieced out once it got to that pool scene.
Yeah.
I left crying. I could not do it. Yeah, it was forever ago. And then I remember the second time I tried to watch a horror movie was The Others. Mm-hmm. And I could not finish it. Look at me now.
Yeah.
I'm the one scaring people. But then once I was introduced to the world of psychological thrillers, especially in the world of Ari Aster with Hereditary, Midsommar, I absolutely fell in love with horror. So it's changed a lot.
And you talk about, it's funny because I talk about the first horror movie people watched, and people talk about, well, I don't consider this horror, I don't consider that horror. But with me, and I'm being completely honest here, I love horror, I've always loved it. But the first scene from any movie that really terrified me to my core, and I don't know if you young ladies have seen this movie, but it's a movie called La Bamba. It's the life story of Richie Valens. And there's a scene in that movie where Richie's having a dream and a plane crashes and the plane falls down and lands on his cousin and kills him. And that scene terrified. I cried watching that scene. It ruined me for movies for a while. So I definitely get, when you talk about Midsommar and Hereditary, some people say, oh, these are psychological thrillers, they're not horror. But any movie can have a horror aspect. I mean, me, Lauren, and Nicole, I'm sure the first time we seen Large Marge in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, that scared the hell out of me, you know? Tell them Large Marge sent you. I was like, oh, no. So horror to me is such a loose term because you can get scared from anything in the whole world. So Nicole, what about you? What was your first horror movie?
My first horror movie was Dawn of the Dead, like classic zombie movie. I know. And it's funny, I don't remember being so scared of it. I think I was more just kind of like, oh my God, like they're actually doing this? Like, what is this about? And then of course, I think it was probably around 13 that started my whole like just wanting to see a horror movie every single weekend. And I would stay up late and everybody else would go to bed and the TV was all the way at the other end of the house. We lived on Elm Drive. So my next one was Nightmare on Elm Street, of course. And I remember having to go to the bathroom and like literally like walking but checking behind me like every few steps, making sure that Freddy wasn't behind me. So yeah, I had like a phase. But now I can't even go to scary movies. They hate it because I scream at the theater. Like at the
smallest little jump scares, she screams.
I jump, I scream, I run out of the theater. It's ridiculous.
That's my wife. Me and my wife have been together for 15 years. We love horror movies. We love going to the cinema. But my wife is the screamer, and it's always so funny because I'm always like, "Oh, who was that did that? Who was that person?" So, Lauren, what about you? Where did it start for you? What was your first horror movie?
My first horror movie was Scream, and that haunts my dreams. I am a very easy scare. So there were moments in this. There's a scene where Remi and I are in the car together, and I'm supposed to get out of the car, but I got locked in the car. And that moment still haunts my dreams. So, I was, if it seems like good acting, it was very real. So.
That take actually made it in the movie.
I love behind the scenes type stuff. So anything you can tell me like that, that's amazing. That's so cool because you get that genuine reaction. And when that gets captured on film, you can't plan that. So that's super cool. Usually I have a list of questions I ask, but just so this doesn't last all night, because I know that you ladies have more important things to be doing, I'm just going to bounce questions off of you guys. That way I don't keep you here all night. So I'll keep going in the same order I was going. So Amelie, what do you think from Terrifier, the first one? I know you said you only seen bits and pieces of it, but what do you think is the part that affected you the most?
Oh my gosh. Well, probably I saw a part where he was in this parking lot and he was behind this car and he just peeks out and that bloody scary face is just crazy.
David is Art the Clown. If you guys haven't seen Terrifier, that's another one you really should check out, because what I love the most about Art the Clown and what scares me the most is when you have these clown movies, usually the clowns are way over the top and crazy and laughing. Art never talks, never speaks. He just makes these funny faces, and he's so scary. So, oh my gosh, I can't imagine seeing that on set had to be so scary. I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
I can't wait for Terrifier 2. That's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited for it to come out.
Me too. Very, very much excited. Remi, so back to you. Do you want to talk about Poltergeist, or do you want to talk about the others? Which one would you rather?
Poltergeist.
Okay, cool. Poltergeist 3, the reason I have that here is because that's my favorite Poltergeist film. And it's funny because when I look at you young ladies, I really get, Heather O'Rourke. She was an amazing young actress. Tragedy what happened to her. It's such a sad thing. But I really appreciate the fact watching films like this. And this could be, I could easily see you two young ladies taking your careers off and starting with a horror thriller movie. That's so cool. And with Poltergeist, which scene I don't want to say which scene affected you, because you said you seen the first half of it. So let's say you got to the pool scene, that scared you. Were there any scenes before that really, like the clown or the TV? Which one do you think was the...
Yeah, the clown, because me and my sister are both just like terrified of clowns. But also like the scene with the thunder when they're counting, I haven't seen it in forever, so please forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't know, just those big sounds and just the tension that's created in between those kind of seconds is just, ooh.
I completely agree. And Poltergeist, it's funny because I never really got to appreciate the first Poltergeist as much because I started with 3. So I think that's why that's my favorite, and I went backwards from there. But Poltergeist 1 is one of those films that I think the first time I watched it, I didn't take it serious because to me, Judd T. Nelson was, or what's his name? He was Coach. from the TV show Coach, so I couldn't take it seriously because I seen Coach before I seen that, so that was really hard for me to take seriously. But that's a terrifying movie now that you go back and rewatch it. It has so many things, from the monster in the TV to the pool, which I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Shudder has a thing called Cursed Films, and they talk about poltergeist on there and how the skeletons in the pool were real skeletons. And to me, that is so scary to think that you're in there with real cadaver skeletons. Like, that's so scary to me.
That's crazy. I
That's
had
gross.
no idea that was like, they weren't prosthetics, they were actual real skeletons.
Yes, so with real reactions. Speaking of real reactions.
So if you guys get a chance, on Shudder, they have Cursed Films, and they talk about Poltergeist, The Exorcist, The Omen, The Twilight Zone, unfortunately. Be careful with the Twilight Zone one. It's heartbreaking. It actually shows the helicopter accident that took their lives. So that one's really kind of hard to watch as a parent. I'm sure it's real. So be careful with that one. Anybody that watches that, be careful, because there's real death and it's real sadness and real heartbreak. So be careful with that. But Cursed Films on Shudder is a whole lot of fun for you guys to check out. Nicole, what is your favorite scene from Dawn of the Dead?
You know, it's interesting because I don't remember it as well as I think I remember lots of, like, I think eating intestines and stuff like that, but I wouldn't say that that's my favorite scene, because the thing that really stuck out for me the most was that all of these people kind of in death kind of started repeating what they did in life, and they were going to the shopping mall and they were doing this thing, and I thought, that is so fascinating and interesting, like how we're just completely run by our compulsions, that even if, we die and become a zombie, we kind of tend to go towards the things that we were most compulsion. It's almost like karma or something, or reincarnation.
Muscle memory, almost.
Yeah, so that was kind of my first introduction to the idea of, like, I don't know, reincarnation, or I don't know. I thought that was really fascinating.
And at a young age, that's something that, like I said, I've said this before, but when you go from An American Tale to Dawn of the Dead, that is quite the jump to go there. So to see any type of horror movie going from, me growing up watching Disney and stuff like that, and then going to House, that was quite the jump for me. So that's another reason why. What was that?
Was House your first horror film?
House was my first horror movie. And I grew up in a video store, actually. My parents owned a video store, and my grandma grabbed House because she was tired of watching Ghostbusters. So she brought House home, and that started a whole new revolution for me. So that's where that started for me. Lauren, I want to go to you real quick with Scream. Now, Scream, we look at that today, and we look at that as kind of a teenage horror movie. To me personally, one thing I'm really excited about is Scream is my favorite horror franchise of all time. I think that Scream, Wes Craven was perfect. He knew what he was doing with the meta, and I think Scream started a whole revolution of film. So with Scream, what scene in that movie affected you the most?
Honestly, I'm very affected by images. So I used to have nightmares about that mask right behind you. I used to have very vivid nightmares about, like, answering my front door and that face being there. I mean, from the time I was young. So I have to be careful. Like, I have to watch, I'm a large child. I have to watch scary movies during the day. If I watch them at night, I'm in for night.
That's a wrap.
But there's a scene, obviously the opening with Drew Barrymore, but then there's a scene in the movie theater that I just found very scary, like that someone's in distress and being murdered and no one knows what's going on. Just that, that really haunted me. But yeah, that led to, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and my best friend had a really mean older brother who's not mean. He was just an older brother who would, like, burst open the door and scare us while we were watching it. So I'm a very easy scare, and that all of those jump scares really affect me. So
You're talking about that mask. It's funny because Scream actually influenced. I got the Edward Munch painting, the Scream, because of that movie. So that's how much that movie affected me as well. So, Amelie, when we're talking about Terrifier, I know it's probably Art the Clown, but when someone brings up Terrifier, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
When someone brings up Terrifier, the first thing that pops into my head is just, I don't know how to explain it, it's just like bloody goriness and like jump scares and just everything that comes to mind when you can think of horror. But like Art the Clown is just that face And I remember the first time that I saw him, when I first realized that I was going to get the part for Terrifier 2, I saw that face, I was like, oh my gosh, and it like stayed in my head for the next however long until I actually met him.
And it's funny because Terrifier is kind of like, in a way, the rhyme of Wizard of Oz for horror fans. It's like blood and guts and gore. Oh my, you know, like that's totally Terrifier. Like it's such a fun movie, and I can't express my excitement for part 2. I just got even more excited knowing that you're in it. You're gonna nail it. I know you are. You're gonna crush it. So congratulations again.
Yes, thank you so much.
So Remi, we are talking about Poltergeist again. I don't want to say favorite because there's not really much. I'll save that question for you, Nicole. But with Remi, let me think. With Poltergeist, when you think about Poltergeist and you think about all the jump scares in that movie, when you were finally able to finish the movie, what was your favorite part of the movie? Because I know you said that you didn't finish it all the way the first time. Right. So it's kind of hard to say without seeing it. But what was your favorite part of that movie once you were able to finish the whole film?
I think just that whole scene of the communicating between parallel universes was just so interesting to think about. I've always loved art and movies, etc., things that just make you think for a really long time after you watch them. Yeah. So yeah, I really loved that scene, and just, you know, the kind of detail that went into it and the lighting, and it just got really creative. So just artistically and visually speaking, that was definitely a thing that stood out.
I'm going to do a double question here for you, because I'm going to do a double question for you, then bounce it onto a double question for Nicole and kind of go backwards here. We're talking about Poltergeist. Have you seen the Poltergeist remake that they did? And what were your opinions on it if you did?
I didn't. I never got to. I really meant to, but I mean, I've always loved like the classic versions of movies more. So, I mean, I don't know, but I should watch it.
And I'm one of those people that I don't think remakes or reboots, however you want to put it, I don't think they're inherently bad. I think there are many very, very good ones. I think that the new Child's Play that came out was a masterpiece, to be honest with you. Dawn of the Dead from 2003, I think, is absolutely brilliant. I think that, I mean, George Romero loved it, except for the running zombies part, so I get that. But I think that is one of my favorite remakes of all time. That kind of leads me into your question, Nicole. Oh, real quick, Poltergeist, I did see the remake. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. There was nothing memorable about it. So I guess it would just be kind of a meh for me, because there was nothing that really stuck out. If you're going to remake a film, especially one like Poltergeist, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, one of these, you know, that really, really fundamentally affected all of us when we were young, you got to make something pop for me. And that's the problem with the Poltergeist remake, because everything they did was so by the book that if you're going to do everything by the book of the first one, just watch the first one. I don't need to see it modernized. You know, if you're going to redo it, do like you did with Child's Play and take it and make it your own. You know, take your own spin on it. Make me appreciate the old one and love the new one. That's what I love about Child's Play. That's what that did. So now we're going to bounce that question onto you, Nicole. Did you see the 2003 Dawn of the Dead?
I don't really take in that much horror anymore, to be honest. No, I didn't see it. I mean, as far as zombie films go, I thought that World War Z was brilliant. You know, I mean, that definitely was terrifying, because that felt a little bit more grounded in reality. I don't know, the Dawn of the Dead series, just, I think it was just the way that it was made. It didn't seem very cinematic from what I remember. And so I just wasn't drawn to see another one. So what was the Will Smith one about zombies too? Like
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend. Like, so I was like into those zombie films, like, because I felt like those were a little bit more grounded in like, oh, this is what went wrong. Because I don't remember if there was ever any plot about why we became zombies. Was there in Dawn of the Dead? I don't remember.
You should watch the 2003 one.
Okay. Is it good?
I love it. Actually, that's my favorite horror movie remake of all time, is the 2003 Dawn of the Dead.
All right, movie night.
If you do, please email me. Let me know what you think of it. And it's funny because you talked about I Am Legend, and here's my thing, and this may talk about how dark of a person I am. Kill as many people as you want, but leave the good boys alone. Don't mess with my puppies. And if you got a movie, like, it's funny, it's like, oh, they killed 18 people, but wait, they killed a dog? Oh no, off limits. This is not acceptable.
I put off watching it for so long. Like, my dad was like, we have to watch this. It's like so amazing. I'm like, no, the dog dies. I'm not watching it.
It's just funny how we as people are like, oh wait, 13 people died? Wait, a dog? Are you serious? What were they thinking? You know, so back to the original the question I really couldn't ask Remi, because there's not much death in Poltergeist, but in the Dawn of the Dead, what, I hate saying favorite because that's such a dark way of putting it, but what death affected you the most in Dawn of the Dead?
Oh, I think when they ate the intestines, that's the one that sticks out for me the most. Like that was like where I was just like, oh my God, like what's happening? That was the one that I think, yeah.
I get it. Anytime you see, especially at a young age, you see people eating people, you're like, we're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't pay too much attention in school, but I know they told me that we don't eat people. I do remember that lesson. So Lauren, I want to go back to you now. We're talking about Scream, and the big thing about Scream is the big twist at the end of finding out who the killer was. Now, there's a lot of great characters in the movie Scream. Do you have a favorite character from that movie?
I mean, I think I loved Sydney. I think I loved Nev Campbell at the time. I loved Sydney. I also, gosh, I'm blanking on the gentleman's name who plays the killer. Matthew?
You had Matthew Lillard, who was Stu.
Matthew Lillard. Yes, I love Matthew Lillard. He's great.
Matthew Lillard took it to 10 in this film.
Yes.
His acting in this film was so awesome. Even the little lines, like when he gets stabbed, he's like, my mom and dad are going to be so mad at me. Like that. That was so awesome. I'm with you. I totally agree.
Yeah, he's great. So, I would say I loved Nev Campbell in it, but I loved him, which is an odd thing to love the villain.
Well, if you guys get a chance to rewatch Scream, one of my favorite scenes in cinema history is in Scream. And you have Jamie Kennedy, who plays Randy. And he's sitting on the couch by himself, and he's watching Halloween. And he's talking to Jamie Lee Curtis. And he's saying, Jamie, the killer's behind you, Jamie, when the killer is behind him. So essentially, he's calling himself Jamie. That's his real name. And he's like, the killer's behind you, Jamie. Turn around, Jamie. What are you doing? Just turn around, while the killer's behind him. And I just think that's so brilliant. A little thing that Wes Craven did, but made it so awesome and so smart. I love that. Scream is such a almost perfect movie to me that I talk about it as much as I can. If you take out the girl getting killed by the garage door, it's the perfect movie. So now I am going to go Scream on you guys here. We talked about your first horror movies. Now, Amelie, I want to know, what is your favorite scary movie? What's your favorite horror movie, Amelie?
Well, if I'm going to be completely honest, I know I probably already said this already, but my favorite horror movie is Terrifier, because I haven't seen that many horror movies anyways. I'm only 11. But from what I've seen of Terrifier, I just think the way they filmed it, and like you said, all of his different facial expressions, like this variety, and it's not just like boo, like he actually has different emotions, and I think that's awesome.
And one thing I love, and I talked about this on the episode with David, he told me this, I thought it was the coolest thing. There's a scene in the movie where the girl hurts Art the Clown, and he looks at her and just flips her off as she's walking away. And that wasn't in the script. They had been filming the same scene over and over and over, and they were all hot and annoyed and bothered. And he did that, and the camera luckily was still rolling. So he was doing that just to get a laugh because everybody was so frustrated at this point. And it stayed in the film. And I love when happy accidents like that happen. And you were talking about that with your film as well, the happy accidents that made the film, in your opinion, better. So to hear behind the scenes stuff like that, to me, is so incredible because it's real, it's genuine, and that's another power at work trying to help us to make the best creation that we can. So I really love to hear that. And Amelie, I'm so glad that you, at 11 years old, I get to talk about Terrifier, who a lot of my friends haven't even seen this film because they're scared of it. Like, you are a G, young lady, and I am so proud to be able to call you a friend and be able to say that I've been able to hang out with you. That was so awesome. Now I'm going to go to the Cannon ladies. Favorite scary movie? Your guys' favorite horror movie?
You go first.
Okay. Well, going back to Ari Aster, the first time I watched Hereditary, it completely changed my perception of film because Aster's style just, the way that he was able to impact every single person to watch that movie and feeling this new feeling of uncomfort was just so surreal to me. And I think to every single person in my family who watched it, it impacted the way they made their art. I know in my sister's photography, the way that she edits her pictures now, it's definitely complementing Ari Aster's kind of style of making people uncomfortable. So, and it's just also one of those movies that even though it's like 2 hours long, I will never stop watching it. I think I've watched it like 6 times now, and it's been 2 years since it's come out. So, because I'm always just so excited to show it to my friends, and I see something new every time. So, yeah.
One thing I love about Hereditary is you go through the movie, and forgive me, I've only seen it the one time, but I can't remember the young lady's name, but she was so awesome in the movie. And you think that she's going to be your protagonist. You know, you think this is it. She's the main character. She's the one. And then I'm not going to spoil anything, but you have the scene.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the hell just happened? Like, it blows your mind. So Ari Aster, seal of approval. That was brilliant. It was amazing. Thank you so much for that piece of film, because there's not very often where I can say a film made me go.
Yeah.
And I remember just being in the theater, and there was just this, like this collective, you could just feel everybody in the theater going, you know, I just remember being that guy like, y'all seen that, right? Like, I'm not the only one that's seen that happen. Like, hey, strange guy, you seen that? Okay, all right, cool, we're good. So Nicole, let's go to you. Your favorite horror movie?
I mean, I don't know if it's really counting as a horror movie, even though Remi listed it. So I really loved The Others. I thought that was so clever. I like films that have a twist at the end where you're not like, you know, you're going in one direction, then it goes in this other direction. There's that aha moment. So I wouldn't say that I was particularly scared in that movie, but I definitely was like, thought it was very clever how they handled it. And I love the movies that when you find out what the reveal is and you go back and watch it from the beginning, just seeing how they actually told that story. I mean, Sixth Sense was another one that did that, where you're just kind of like blown away by that ending, that twist, and then you got to kind of go back and watch the beginning, knowing that information that you know, and it's kind of like, oh, this is interesting how they lined up the events to get to this point. So The Others, I think, is one of my favorite. I think also it was just so beautiful. It was such a beautiful film. I love Nicole Kidman.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. I've seen The Others, but I wanted to make sure it was the film I was thinking of. It's the Nicole Kidman, and her house is haunted by ghosts, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And
That's all I'm going to leave it at.
Sensitive. So.
Yeah. If you guys haven't seen it, Nicole Kidman, her house is haunted by ghosts. So Lauren, I got to go to you now. Your favorite scary movie? What is your favorite horror movie?
I really loved Get Out. I loved Get Out. I thought it was brilliant, and I saw it at home during the day because I can't see scary movies at night. And I loved it. I just thought it was brilliant, and I thought the performances were incredible.
Did you by any chance see the Blu-ray or DVD copy of it?
I don't think so.
On the Blu-ray, they have a alternate ending.
Oh.
And
I did see the alternate ending.
You did see it?
Yes.
For those of you that have not seen the alternate ending of Get Out, watch the alternate ending. It is so heartbreaking, but so beautiful and so amazing, and I love it. I'm glad they had the ending they did.
Yes.
But if they would have had the alternate ending, if you listen to that alternate ending commentary, the reason that Jordan Peele changed it to what he did was it's brilliant. So we'll talk about that in a second when we're done rolling, because I'd like to talk to you about that alternate ending without spoiling it for anybody.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go around the room one more time, and I have one last question for you guys. I always end my podcast with a skull count. So what we do is we rank the first horror movie you watched, just your opinion, not how great it is, but how much you like this film, 0 being the worst, 5 skulls being the best. You can use half and quarter skulls. I always get asked that. So, Amelie, let's start with you. We're talking about Terrifier. On a scale of 0 to 5 skulls, what would you rank Terrifier?
Okay, 5, definitely 5, because it was kind of like it was kind of the first horror movie that I saw, so I didn't really know what to expect. But when I saw the different parts of it, I just realized like how just scary horror movies really are, and like how they make you feel, especially afterwards. Like when you're going to bed that night, you just have that image in your mind, and sometimes you just can't even fall asleep. So yeah, definitely a 5.
And the thing about Terrifier too is it's one thing to start with a horror movie like Gremlins or Nightmare on Elm Street, where you know this is fake. You know, a guy's not going to get me in my dreams. Art the Clown is very real. There is nothing mythical about him. It's not like Pennywise the clown, or which I'm not bashing. I'm a huge It fan, but that's not real. Art the Clown is very real, which makes it even scarier because this could happen to me. I'm a pretty lady. This could happen to me. Someone could grab me up, So I definitely get it. And I'm so appreciative that you got to see that for your first horror movie. That's so awesome. You have the coolest parents in the world, Amelie. Besides you, Remi. It's a tie. So, Remi, let's go to you. Poltergeist. 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. How many skulls are we giving Poltergeist?
I'm going to give it a 3.5, that extra half, because it's just a classic. It's very trademark. And I think it's not your normal ghost movie. There's so many different levels to it, and that I can really respect.
And there's been so many movies that have blatantly ripped off Poltergeist. That's how influential that movie is. I mean, there's a whole bit in Scary Movie 2 that is directly based on Poltergeist. And, Nirvana said it best. Kurt Cobain from Nirvana, he came out and said he knew that Nirvana was onto something when Weird Al came and asked if he could make fun of one of their songs. And I think that's, when you start to get parodied, you've done something right because people are noticing you. And Poltergeist has not only been parodied, but directly ripped off by so many films. I got to give you that extra half skull on that as well. So great ranking. How about you, Nicole? We're talking about Dawn of the Dead, 0 to 5. What's your ranking?
I'm going to give it a 3, only because it left me feeling so creeped out. I was like, I felt like I needed to take a bath afterwards. So I think that it did the job in that sense. I just liked the idea. I mean, I think I might have had a fantasy for a little while afterwards of being able to live in a department store, like in The Office or something like that. And or even just where would I go in the zombie apocalypse, So I definitely left an impact. So I would give it a 3. And I think there's something for that, the music, just that classic, the way that they shot it. It was just so kind of almost cheesy, and I don't know if that was the style of filmmaking back then, so maybe it was really hip and of the moment back then, or whether it was just super low budget and they just threw this really music on it or whatever. But it's definitely a classic, so I'd give it a 3.
Very fair. Lauren, Scream, 0 to 5. What are you giving it?
I'd give it 4.75 skulls.
There we go.
Because it really did a number on me. So my first and my last scary film for a while. And then I'd love to later hear why the garage door scene is a point of contention for you. Because I haven't heard that yet. But yeah, after we'll have to chat. I'd love to know.
Absolutely. So like I said, guys, make sure you're going down here in the description, checking out all the hard work these ladies are doing. You're going to be seeing a whole lot of these ladies here in the future. So remember these ladies' faces. They're going to be burned in your memory here in about 5 to 10 years. You're going to see nothing but them everywhere. So thank you guys again so much. Ladies, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, remember, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.